All right, so Season 14 Patch B, I guess you could call it. We're gonna have the 6v6 patch. All the Winter Brawls are returning. You're able to get a bunch of rewards. Basically, you log in, you get a bunch of stuff. Twitch is having drops so you can get up to 3 skins. So make sure to stop by for those. But the big news, we now officially have 6v6 patch notes. So this is gonna go from December 17th to January 6th. It will be in the roll queue rule set. To go with it, they've made a lot of changes to heroes here to kind of make up for 6v6. You're gonna see a lot of tank changes, and we're just gonna go down that list as quick as we can, as efficiently as we can. So first of all, they've increased the base health regeneration timer from 5 to 7 seconds. I'm not sure how I feel about that or not. I think it would have been okay with 5 seconds, but there's got to be a reason behind that. Maybe it's more like they just want a little bit less sustain in team fights and a little bit less survivability because 6v6 has a little bit more of that sustainability. The tank roll passive, the knockback and critical damage removed, no longer affects HP, and now reduces the ultimate charge regenerated by 25%. What that means is that when you do damage to tanks, you have a reduction right now, so that way you don't build ults fast. They're just reducing that a little bit here. Damage roll passive goes from 25% to 15% and no longer has the reduced effectiveness for tank heroes. So technically that's a buff for that because in the current live version, it's at 12.5%. So this is an extra 2.5%. Not really too worried about that. And then we go to the changes they've done for each hero, and we have a lot for a lot of the heroes. So first of all, D.Va's base health is increased from 225 to 350, and then the armor's reduced by 25, so from 325 to 300. This has given D.Va more HP. Defense matrix duration has been reduced from 3 to 2 seconds. I'm okay with that. Like I said, in the 6v6 one, there's a lot more sustain. Having a 3 seconds DM doesn't make as much sense in this type of setting. The fusion cannon's weapon spread increased from 3.375 to 4 degrees, and the movement speed penalty increased from 30 to 40%. So far, all of this outside of the HP is a nerf to D.Va, but a lot of this is just to make up for the 6v6. So when you see these nerfs, I wouldn't necessarily look at them as like, what are they doing? Why? It's because it's a difference. Like the way that 6v6 plays is different than 5v5. In the 5v5 version, tanks need to be a little bit more like beefier and have more ability to brawl and do things on their own. In 6v6, it's a little bit less of that. You still want to have that capability so you don't feel like you're doing nothing. You're going to see a couple changes here with tanks where they kind of adjust that. The micro missiles, the cooldown increased from 7 to 8 seconds, and the boosters cooldown increased from 3.5 to 4. On to Doomfist. Yes, Doomfist is still a tank in the 6v6 version. The base health increased from 375 to 425. The best defense passive, the overhealth gained per target reduced from 40 to 35. Maximum temporary health reduced from 200 to 150. Seismic Slam cooldown goes from 6.5 seconds to 7.5. The power block has the duration reduced from 2.5 to 2 seconds, and the cooldown increased from 7 to 8. So once again, very consistent with D.Va and Doomfist, just making nerfs, but they're kind of like the other tank will buff the tank, if that makes sense. Hazard's Jagged Wall cooldown increased from 12 to 5 seconds, and his health increased from 400 to 500. Spike Guard duration reduced from 3.5 to 3 seconds, and the recharge time increased from 5 to 6. Once again, nerfs for the extra tank. Junker Queen, the base health has been increased from 375 to 425. This one's interesting here. The Adrenaline Rush, the self-healing from wounds damage scalar reduced from 2.5 to 1.0. My guess is they're just afraid that if they keep it at 2.5 or lower to even 2.0, that Queen will just be unkillable. We'll see how it goes. And then the Command and Shout and cooldown increased from 12 to 15, which seems on par with like Jagged Wall, 12 to 15. So Mauga, an interesting one because I know a lot of people are concerned about some of the really good tanks and currently 5v5 version also carrying over to 6v6. Mauga's base armor reduced from 150 to 100. The base health is increased from 425 to 450, so that's an overall nerf of about 25 armor, it sounds like. Overrun cooldown increased from 5 to 7 seconds, and the stomp damage reduced from 75 to 60. Cardiac Overdrive, the allied lifesteal, reduced from 50 to 30%. And then the cooldown is increased from 15 to 17 seconds, and then the cage fight, the duration is from 8 to 7 seconds. Consistency across the board here. Most of the tanks are getting nerfs, but I want you to think as the second tank as a buff. There's a nerf, but there's also like an overall buff to how a tank will feel. Orisa's base armor reduced from 325 to 250, and the base health increased from 150 to 250. They're taking away a lot of the armor, so that will make Orisa a little bit easier to kill in those situations. Fortify, no longer immune to critical damage, so you can headshot Orisa now. Augmented Fusion Driver now has a fall-off starting at 25 meters, and Energy Javelin goes from 6 to 8 seconds. Ramatra, base health increased from 250 to 375. Nemesis form bonus armor reduced from 300 to 200. Void Barrier cooldown increased from 13 to 16 seconds. That's to alleviate the shield issues. Reinhardt, base health increased from 250 to 325. Base armor reduced reduced from 300 to 225. Now has the steadfast passive again, reducing knockback by 30%. Charge cooldown increased from 7 to 10 seconds, and the steer-in reduced by 50%. The barrier HP health increased from 1500 to 2000. Fire Strike only has one charge now, and Earth Shatter distance reduced from 25 to 20 meters. I will say the interesting part now is it's going to be cool to see Ryan in like a 6v6 setting be able to cancel charge. So while they're reducing the steering one, which I kind of like the fast-paced Ryan charge, this does at least allow Reinhardt to cancel charge, which was something you didn't really get to experience in Overwatch 1. It was never a thing. Once you charged in, you were in. Roadhog, base health increased from 600 to 650. The hook is now from 6 seconds to 8 seconds. Pigpen is completely removed. Take a breather is back to ability 2. The maximum heal has been reduced from 400 to 325. Damage reduction increased from 40 to 50%. Cooldown is now 8 seconds, no longer resource-based. And the scrap gun, secondary fire, air burst projectile added. Primary fire for large center projectiles removed. Primary fire pellets per shot increased from 16 to 25. Damage per pellet increased from 6.25 to 6.5. And critical damage multiplier increased from 1.5 to 2. And the whole hog duration reduced from 8 to 6 seconds. To summarize here, you're kind of going back to a version of hog that I think a lot of people like. Personally, for me, I definitely miss the right-click part, where you can do like your left-click or right-click. You have a decision-making on mid-range. And that's kind of why they're getting rid of the pigpen here. This is kind of going back into making hog that true kind of off-tank style. So this is kind of the hog version we were used to in 6v6. Sigma, base shield health reduced from 275 to 250. Keep in mind, that's not the shield, that's the regenerated shield Sigma has on his HP. Experimental barrier recharge rate increased from 85 to 100 health per second. This is to get your shield back a little bit quicker. The accretion damage reduced from 120 to 100. Normal changes, Sigma's going to be just fine. Winston, base health increased from 225 to 350, and the base armor reduced from 250 to 200, so taking away some of that armor. Barrier projector cooldown increased from 12 to 13 seconds. Jump back cooldown increased from 5 to 6 seconds. Tesla cannon no longer ignores armor damage reduction. Secondary fire charge time increased from 0.85 to 1.1. Just means when you right-click, it takes a little bit longer to get that full. Secondary fire ammo cost increased from 12 to 25, reducing how often you can do it. Primal Rage maximum health gain reduced from 700 to 500. So on par with everything else, remember that Winston, while getting nerfed there, will also have heroes like Diva to support Winston now, and Zarya. Wrecking Ball, base shield health removed. The base health increased from 300 to 500. Base armor reduced from 175 to 150. Adaptive shields no longer able to disperse shields to allies. The radius is reduced from 13 to 8 meters, and the over health gained per target reduced from 100 to 75. Pile driver cooldown increased from 8 to 10 seconds. Wrecking Ball should be fine. If you're wondering why they removed the base shield, they're just trying to remove the idea of having those extra shields to regen over time. They want Wrecking Ball out of team fights longer, especially in the 6v6 style. And then for the last part of the tanks, I know we had a lot there, which is cool to see. Like I said, I know people were concerned they weren't gonna they were just gonna give you the arcade HP and kind of go with it, so I'm glad to see them doing a lot of this. Base health increased from 175 to 225. Particle barrier no longer shares a cooldown with projected barrier. Health reduced from 225 to 200. Duration reduced from 2.5 to 2 seconds. And the cooldown reduced from 11 to 10 seconds. Projected barrier, health reduced from 225 to 200. Duration reduced from 2.25 to 2 seconds. And the cooldown reduced from 9 to 8 seconds. To make it clear for anybody new to Overwatch or didn't play this version of Zarya, you're just going to have your Zarya bubbles on 2 different cooldowns now. One for you, one for your teammate. And that's why it says it no longer shares a cooldown. Just like I said, a lot of the tanks are getting kind of straight up nerfs, and just are kind of readjusted for the 6v6 setting. Right now in 5v5, a lot of the tanks are supposed to be like those raid bosses that take a while to get through. It doesn't take a while to get through them right now. Those tanks are now just going to have a little bit less tankiness, but because of the other tank, there's a lot more happening. On to the DPS now. These ones are a little bit quicker. Ashe, Bob's HP is increased from 1,000 to 1,200. This was because of the extra damage that you have with a second tank. Cassidy, Peacekeeper, which is the right click. Fan the Hammer secondary fire damage increased from 45 to 50. Echo Duplicate no longer has a max health for copy target. And the Focus and Beam damage multiplier for low health targets increased from 3.5 to 4 times, which is 200 DPS. So Echo just gets a straight up buff there. Storm Arrow on Hanzo has time to fully charge each shot reduced from 0.8 to 0.72. Just gives you a little bit of a quicker ability to get into your shots. May Ice Wall health increased from 250 to 300. Soldier 76, my favorite buff of all time. Heavy Pulse Rifle damage increased from 19 to 20. Some of that we kind of expected recently, but on to 20 we go. Torb Deploy Turret damage increased from 13 to 15, which also has the current updated Torb too, which is going to be interesting. Tracer Pulse Pistols fall off range increased from 10 to 12 meters. So there you go, a little bit more long range tracer play. Widowmaker base health increased from 200 to 225. I don't know how Widow will fare in the 6v6 style. This will either be a great change or Widow will just keep server admin. I will say with comps like Winston Diva now enabled, comps we've never seen before, where you could have Jungler Queen like Mauga, like comps that are just different that we haven't experimented with ever, is going to be really interesting to try. So I'm sure Widow will be fine. So that's it for DPS. Like I said, DPS don't need a ton of changes in these situations. What I do hope is that if some of these DPS do struggle, they're willing to maybe make one more change after the holidays to be able to basically give an opportunity to see if there's some balance shifts. Because obviously, with this type of test, they want to give it their best, so why not make one maybe balance patch in between there? We'll see, though. And then for support, Ana Biotic Rifle ammo has been reduced from 15 to 12. Sleep Dart no longer has reduced duration versus tank heroes, which means you're back to 5-second sleeps on your tanks. And the cooldowns are reduced from 14 to 12 seconds. Biotic Grenade is also having the cooldown reduced from 12 to 10 seconds. Bapti's Regenerative Burst no longer heals twice as much for allies under 50% max HP. Instant Heal has been increased from 40 to 50. Healing over time increased from 400 to 100 over 5 seconds. That's interesting. It's like the BAP is going to be good. And Immortality Field health increased from 125 to 150. I'm not sure. I mean, I thought BAP would be fine regardless. This is interesting. That's just a we'll see. Ayari, Solar Rifle max damage increased from 70 to 75, and the min damage has been increased from 20 to 25. That just means that when you max it out, you do 75 damage, and if you're just spamming your buttons, it does 25 now. So just a little bit of a damage thing. And then the Healing Pylon cooldown reduced from 14 to 12 seconds. Overall, for like Ana, BAP, and Ayari there, pretty normal changes. Juno, Hyper Ring maximum duration reduced from 6 to 4.5. Orbital Ray maximum duration reduced from 10 to 8 seconds, and Pulsar Torpedoes cooldown increased from 10 to 12. These changes scream to me that they were just concerned about the game being really fast the whole time, and they want to give a lot of these comps the ability to play. So tuning Juno down in this 6v6 setting makes sense. How will this feel for Juno? I don't know. We'll see. Kiriko, Heal and Ofuda recovery time reduced from 0.9 to 0.8. Just gives you a little bit more time to heal, a quicker time to heal. This is to kind of, remember, you have to heal 2 tanks now, so it just kind of helps with that. And then to go with that buff, healing per projectile increased from 13 to 14 seconds. More healing, more uptime. Lifeweaver Tree of Life, maximum duration reduced from 15 to 12 seconds. The maximum health increased from 1200 to 1400, just to go with the extra damage happening. The platform cooldown increased from 12 to 15 seconds. And the Healing Blossom has been increased from 80 to 90. And once again, these changes right here are designed around the idea that you have a second tank to heal now. So they're giving you a little bit more power into your heals. And then last but not least, and the final patch note of the 6v6 patch notes, is Zenyatta's Destruction Orb ammo reduced from 25 to 20. Harmony Orb, time to wear off when not in line of sight, reduced from 5 to 3 seconds. Orb of Discord no longer has a cooldown per target. Time to fall off target when not in line of sight increased from 1.5 to 3. The Snap Kick passive has the knockback reduced to 20%, and it no longer increases quick melee damage. With Zen, we'll see how it feels with the Orb of Discord. I kind of like how they have it now in the 5v5 setting, but that's because there's one tank, so that kind of helps the one tank at least have some counterplay. I will admit, as a tank player, there's a bit of bias here. I did like the idea of being able to outplay the Orb of Discord, so we'll see how it plays. It's been a few years since we played 6v6 against the Zen. I'm sure it'll be fine. I am a little bit concerned about a couple comps that used to be a problem with Zen, but I think Zen will be fine overall. So I couldn't tell you how this is going to play because we have new additions to heroes in the game that we've never had before. Like we have different versions of the tanks, like Orisa, than we've had before. We have, heroes like Doomfist that's now a tank. So it'll be interesting to see, but I am glad that they at least went through here and actually made changes. This is shaping up to be a pretty exciting week overall. In what people thought the recent patch was a little bit lackluster, it feels like they put a little bit more into this patch, and obviously you can, with some game releases like Rivals, maybe they wanted to give it another extra week to breathe, maybe give the season a little bit more time. So I kind of consider this the start of season 14 now. And yeah, I mean, like I said, it should be a fun one. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like I said, there's gonna be Twitch drops starting the 21st. We're gonna get 3 skins you can get. So if you want to stop by the streams during then, feel free, and a bunch of other free stuff you're getting. So appreciate y'all tuning in. Let me know what you think about the style of video per usual, which is always good to get that feedback. We usually record these on stream. This one was recorded off stream, but stop by the stream. We have a lot of fun there, both on Twitch and YouTube. And with that being said, I hope you all have an amazing day/night.